Have you ever stood at the altar, ready to say, I do, only to realize that the two people you trusted most had already betrayed you? The kind of betrayal that rips through your chest, leaving you breathless, wondering if anything in your life was ever real. That was me. My name is Emily Parker, and I was 22 years old when what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life became the day I lost everything. Or so I thought. That day, I discovered that sometimes pain is the greatest teacher, and success is the sweetest revenge. Welcome to Revenge Real Tales, where real stories of heartbreak, betrayal, and redemption come to life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would be so grateful. Now let me take you back to that day, the day my wedding became my reckoning. It was a warm afternoon in early June, the kind of California day where the sun kisses your skin and the sky stretches out, endless and blue. The vineyard in Napa Valley was perfect, every detail meticulously planned. Rows of white chairs lined the lush green lawn, and ivory roses intertwined with soft pink peonies created an aisle straight out of a bridal magazine. This was supposed to be my fairy tale. I stood in the bridal suite, adjusting the delicate lace veil that cascaded down my back. My heart raced, not just with excitement, but with the kind of nervous energy that feels like your body is warning you. But I ignored it. After all, this was my day. Jessica, my maid of honor and best friend since high school, was helping me fasten my bracelet. She laughed, the sound familiar and comforting. "You look like a princess, Em," she whispered. And I believed her. For a fleeting moment, I believed everything was perfect. But that moment was short-lived. I stepped out of the suite to catch my breath, needing a moment alone before walking down the aisle. That's when I heard it, whispers, laughter, coming from behind the garden trellis. I shouldn't have looked. I should have turned around and walked back inside. But I didn't. I peeked through the vines, and what I saw shattered me. Jason, my fiancé, the man I had loved for 3 years, had his hands on Jessica's waist, their bodies pressed close, his lips brushing against hers like it was something they had done 100 times before. My best friend, my future husband. In that instant, my entire world collapsed. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and I felt like I was drowning. But no one noticed, because no one knew. I wanted to scream, to rip my veil off and demand answers. But instead, I stood frozen, the weight of my dress anchoring me to the ground. My heart shattered, but my mind sharpened. I realized something in that moment. There was power in silence. They thought they had won. They thought they had broken me. But I would not give them that satisfaction. I took a deep breath, wiped away a single tear, and adjusted my veil once more. I would walk down that aisle. I would smile for the cameras. I would give them the wedding they wanted. But this was no longer about love. This was about reclaiming my power. As I stepped onto the aisle, with the string quartet playing softly and the guests turning to admire the bride, I wore the most beautiful mask, a smile. But inside, I made a vow far stronger than the one I would speak to Jason. I vowed that this would not break me. They would not break me. I would rise from this. And one day, they would all look up and see me standing on top, while they stood in my shadow. That day was not just the day I got married. It was the day I took back my life. I stood there, frozen behind the trellis, the lace hem of my wedding dress brushing against the warm earth beneath me. The soft hum of laughter and clinking glasses drifted from the cocktail hour on the other side of the vineyard, but all I could hear was the sound of my heartbeat, thundering in my chest like a war drum. My breath caught in my throat as I peered through the vines, unable to look away from the scene unfolding before me. Jason, my fiancé, the man I had trusted with my future, was there, his hand resting firmly on Jessica's lower back. Jessica, my maid of honor, my best friend since we were teenagers, leaned into him, her fingers grazing his jaw before their lips met. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a drunken mistake. It was familiarity, intimacy, the kind of touch that told me this wasn't the first time. I felt the world tilt beneath me. My stomach twisted violently, and my vision blurred with tears. My chest constricted so tightly that for a moment I thought I might collapse right there in the dirt. The setting sun cast a warm, golden hue over the vineyard, making the betrayal before me look almost picturesque, like a scene from a movie. But this wasn't fiction. This was my life, my wedding day, my future shattering in front of me. Have you ever felt your heart break so suddenly, so completely, that you thought you might die from it? That was me, standing there in my ivory gown, clutching my bouquet with trembling fingers, while the two people I loved most in the world destroyed everything we had built together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm over there, rip Jessica away from him, and demand answers. I wanted the entire wedding party, hell, the entire world to see what they had done. But I didn't, because in that moment, something shifted inside me. The shock and pain crystallized into something sharper, harder. I realized that exposing them right there would satisfy my anger, but it would also ruin me. My humiliation would become the story of the day, whispered about by every guest, splashed across the social pages. I would be the girl who got left at the altar. No, that wasn't going to be my story. I straightened my back, blinked away the tears threatening to spill over, and stepped back from the trellis. I forced my breathing to slow, adjusting the veil that felt heavier than ever. I would not let them see me broken. Not today. What would you have done if you were me? Would you have confronted them right then and there, tearing apart the carefully crafted facade of the perfect wedding? Or would you have held your head high and carried on, knowing that revenge is best served cold? Comment 111 if you would have exposed them. Comment 222 if you would have played it cool like I did. I made my way back to the bridal suite, each step feeling like I was wading through cement. My reflection in the mirror stared back at me, flushed cheeks, glassy eyes, but I forced a smile. I had perfected that smile over the years, the one I wore when my parents divorced, when my father remarried just months later, leaving me and my mother behind. That same smile now became my armor. Minutes later, the ceremony began. The music swelled as I took my father's arm and stepped onto the aisle. Guests turned, their faces lighting up with admiration. To them, I was the radiant bride, glowing with happiness. They couldn't see the splintering beneath the surface. They didn't know that with every step toward Jason, I was swallowing the taste of betrayal. Jason stood at the altar, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners, pretending to be overwhelmed with love. Jessica was beside him, her smile wide and perfect, clutching her bouquet as though it hadn't just been resting against my fiancé's chest moments before. I locked eyes with her briefly. Did I imagine the flicker of guilt? Or was it pride? As I said my vows, my voice steady, my hands delicately intertwined with Jason's, I made another vow to myself, one they couldn't hear. I would not crumble. I would not be the fool in this story. I would take back my power, and they would regret ever thinking they could betray me. The applause erupted as Jason kissed me, our guests cheering as though this was the beginning of a fairy tale. But the truth is that kiss tasted like ashes. When his lips pressed against mine, all I could think of was Jessica, her lipstick smudged from his mouth only minutes earlier. At the reception, I moved through the crowd like a queen, graceful, poised. I laughed at jokes I didn't hear, accepted congratulations I didn't deserve, and danced with my new husband under twinkling lights while every cell in my body screamed in pain. I watched Jessica from across the room, her hand resting lightly on Jason's arm when she thought no one was looking. But I was always looking. I memorized every stolen glance, every subtle touch. They thought they were clever. They thought I was blind. But I saw everything. Toward the end of the night, I slipped away to the vineyard's edge, where the lights of Napa Valley sparkled in the distance. I let the tears come then, silent, hot streams down my cheeks. The weight of the betrayal pressed against my chest, threatening to break me. But I wouldn't let it. My mother found me there. She thought it was wedding nerves. She whispered how proud she was, how she could see the love Jason had for me. I nodded, smiling, swallowing the truth like poison. The truth was I was alone, surrounded by friends and family, but more alone than I had ever felt in my life. The two people who were supposed to protect me had conspired against me. Have you ever experienced that kind of betrayal? The kind that makes you question your worth? That makes you wonder if you'll ever be able to trust again? I thought about calling Jason out. I imagined grabbing the microphone and telling everyone what a liar he was. I imagined shoving Jessica into the towering wedding cake. But as the images flashed through my mind, I knew none of that would satisfy me. I didn't want to ruin the wedding. I wanted to ruin the ending. I wanted them to look at me years from now, standing at the top of everything they wished they had, knowing that they had lost me, knowing that I had won. So I wiped my tears, fixed my lipstick, and walked back inside. The music was louder, the champagne sweeter, and the laughter brighter. But none of it mattered, because the real celebration, the one that would matter, hadn't begun yet. It would. I'll make sure of it. But first, I needed you to hear this story, because maybe you've been there. Maybe you felt that same crushing pain. Maybe you know what it's like to stand alone at your own party, smiling for the world while your heart breaks inside. If you do, I want you to tell me. Comment 111 if you would have confronted them that day. Comment 222 if you would have smiled through it like I did. Because this story isn't over. Not for me, and maybe not for you. Sometimes the best revenge is simply surviving. Sometimes the best revenge is making sure they never forget you. And I promise you, Jason and Jessica, they will never forget me. The morning after my wedding, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the sheer curtains of our honeymoon suite in Napa Valley. Jason was still asleep beside me, his breathing steady, his arm draped lazily over my waist as though nothing had changed, as though he hadn't shattered my heart just hours before. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. The pain from what I had witnessed the day before, the stolen kisses between my husband and my best friend, was still raw, but it had begun to morph into something else. Something sharper. Determination. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him, and stepped onto the balcony overlooking the vineyard. The view was breathtaking. Rolling hills drenched in gold. Morning dew catching the light like diamonds. I gripped the railing, breathing deeply, allowing the beauty before me to anchor the storm within. This place, this day, was supposed to mark the beginning of a new life with Jason. But it had become something else entirely, the beginning of my rise. Have you ever had that moment when pain becomes clarity? When heartbreak sharpens into purpose? That morning, I decided I would not be the victim of this story. I would not let Jason and Jessica reduce me to a cautionary tale whispered about at brunches and bridal showers. No, I would write my own story, one of triumph. I had always dreamed of starting my own luxury event planning company. I was only 22, but I had spent the past 4 years at UCLA studying business management with an emphasis on event coordination. My internship at one of Los Angeles' top event firms had prepared me well. I had the knowledge, the connections, and now I had the perfect opportunity. My wedding, despite the betrayal hidden beneath the surface, had been a masterpiece. Every detail was flawless. The floral arrangements cascading down the aisle, the personalized calligraphy place cards, the custom champagne tower that had been the talk of the night. The event had been covered by brides and Vogue weddings, thanks to my father's connections in the media industry. Journalists had praised the elegance, the seamless execution. They didn't know that beneath my veil, I had been holding back tears of heartbreak. But now I saw it all differently. What if I could turn that wedding, the very stage where my world had crumbled, into my launch pad? What if I could transform the most painful day of my life into the foundation of something extraordinary? That week, I drafted a business plan. I poured myself into it with the kind of intensity that only comes from heartbreak. My vision was clear. Lux Vision Events, a premier event planning company specializing in high-end weddings and corporate galas. I wanted to create experiences that would leave people breathless. Events that would be remembered long after the last guest had left. I would turn my pain into power, my humiliation into success. But I needed more than just a company. I needed a grand debut, an event so spectacular that no one could ignore it. That's when it hit me. Jason's cousin was getting married in 6 months, and their family was already talking about how they wanted something elegant yet unforgettable. I knew I could deliver that. And what better way to reintroduce myself to the world, as more than just a betrayed bride, but as a force to be reckoned with. I arranged a lunch meeting with Jason's aunt, a formidable woman named Claire who had connections in every corner of Los Angeles society. Over salads and sparkling water at a rooftop restaurant in Beverly Hills, I pitched my vision. I spoke with confidence, masking the tremor beneath my words. Claire was intrigued. By the end of the meal, she had agreed to let me handle the entire wedding. It was my first official event under Lux Vision. I worked tirelessly, while Jason thought I was adjusting to married life. Decorating our apartment, planning date nights, I was building my empire. I networked with top vendors, secured partnerships with floral designers and photographers whose work graced the covers of Vogue. I leveraged every connection I had, from my father's media circle to my former colleagues. I wanted this wedding to be perfect, not just for Claire, but for me. Jason had no idea. Neither did Jessica. They thought I had moved on, that I had accepted my role as the happy wife. They didn't see the storm I was crafting behind closed doors. On the day of Claire's wedding, everything unfolded flawlessly. The venue was a private estate in Malibu, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Soft string music played as the sun set behind the cliffs. Guests whispered in awe as they entered the reception. Crystal chandeliers suspended from ancient oak trees, tables adorned with orchids imported from Singapore, and a custom dessert display featuring hand-painted macarons. But the true showstopper was the coverage. Vogue weddings and Harper's Bazaar were there, capturing every moment. Photos of my work flooded Instagram within hours. The hashtag #LuxVision trending among celebrities and socialites. That night, as I stood beneath the fairy lights, sipping champagne, I watched Jason from across the lawn. He was laughing with his cousins, unaware that the entire event, the one everyone was praising, was my creation. Jessica was there too, trailing him like a shadow. Neither of them knew that this wedding was my victory. The days that followed were a blur of success. Inquiries poured in. Couples from New York to San Francisco wanted Lux Vision to plan their weddings. Corporations requested quotes for holiday galas. I signed contracts, hired a team, and secured an office space in downtown Los Angeles. Within months, Lux Vision had become one of the most sought-after event firms on the West Coast. Jason began to notice. He would come home and see my calendar filled with meetings, my phone buzzing with clients. He started asking questions, innocent at first. Wow, you're busy these days. Then more pointed. Why didn't you tell me you were planning Claire's wedding? I smiled, always polite. It was just a small project, something to keep me busy. But he knew. He saw the shift. He felt it. And Jessica? She knew too. She saw the articles, the glowing reviews. She heard the whispers from mutual friends. How Emily Parker was no longer just Jason's wife. She was a powerhouse, a rising star in the world of luxury events. They had taken my heart, but I had taken something far greater, their peace. Every success I achieved reminded them of their betrayal. Every headline with my name was a reminder that they had underestimated me. Would you have done the same? Would you have turned your pain into power like I did? Comment 111 if you believe success is the best revenge, or if you would have handled it differently. Let me know your way in the comments below. There were moments I wanted to confront them, to scream, to make them feel the pain they had inflicted on me. But I realized something far more powerful. Nothing hurts a betrayer more than watching you thrive without them. Nothing unsettles them more than seeing you become everything they thought you couldn't. So, I smiled at Jason during family dinners. I hugged Jessica at baby showers. And all the while I built my empire, because that's what real revenge looks like. And this was only the beginning. 1 year after my wedding day, the day my heart shattered behind a facade of lace and champagne, I stood in the corner office of Lux Vision Events, gazing out over the glittering sprawl of Los Angeles. The skyline sparkled beneath the dusk, a symbol of everything I had built from the ruins of my pain. My name was etched in gold on the glass door. Emily Parker, CEO. That title was more than just a position. It was proof. Proof that I had survived. Proof that I had won. The journey to this moment had been relentless. I had poured every ounce of my heartbreak, every ounce of my anger, into building Lux Vision. My company was now the go-to name for luxury weddings and elite corporate events. Celebrities, socialites, Fortune 500 executives, they all wanted their milestones curated by me. My work had graced the covers of Vogue, Weddings, and Brides. My designs were described as breathtakingly innovative. Competitors whispered my name with respect and fear, but nothing compared to the quiet, personal victories that came along the way. Jason, my husband, the man who had kissed my best friend Jessica behind the trellis on our wedding day, was no longer the confident entrepreneur he had once been. His marketing firm had struggled for months. Rumors swirled that he had lost his biggest clients, and his office lease in downtown LA had expired. He was working from home now. Our home, though it no longer felt like his. I still lived there, but I occupied it differently. It was no longer a place of dreams we shared. It was my sanctuary. Jason tried to hide his stress from me. He smiled through gritted teeth at family gatherings, telling relatives he was exploring new business opportunities. But I knew better. I saw the tension in his jaw when my name appeared in the media. I saw the way his eyes darkened when someone praised my success. And Jessica? She had faded into the background like an outdated centerpiece. After our wedding, she had taken a clerical job at a real estate office in the Valley. Her Instagram posts, once filled with designer brunches and travel snapshots, had turned into blurry pictures of coffee cups and motivational quotes. I knew she watched me from afar. She liked every Lux Vision post, every glowing feature, every behind-the-scenes story of the high society weddings I orchestrated. I wondered if she scrolled through those images, remembering the day she had thought she won. But she hadn't. Neither of them had. I hadn't needed to destroy them. I had simply succeeded, and my success was the knife that cut deeper than any words could. Sometimes, the best revenge is letting them watch you rise while they sink. Have you ever seen the ones who hurt you face their own downfall? Without you lifting a finger? Watching them realize, day by day, that they no longer hold power over you? If you believe they got what they deserved, comment 111. Or if you think I should have done more, tell me what you would have done below. But my story isn't just about them. It's about me, and it's about you. You see, I thought Jason and Jessica had taken everything from me. My love, my trust, my sense of safety. But in reality, they gave me something far greater. They gave me clarity. They forced me to confront my own strength, to realize that I didn't need anyone to save me. I was the hero of my own story. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I would ever feel whole again. There were mornings I stared at my reflection, wondering if I was strong enough to keep going. But each time, I chose to rise. Each time, I chose to build. And every brick I laid, every client I signed, every event I executed became part of the foundation that lifted me higher. You might be sitting there right now listening to my story with your own heart in pieces. Maybe you've been betrayed by someone you loved. Maybe you feel like you've lost everything. I want you to hear me when I say this. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not weak. You are not finished. The pain you feel right now, that pain is fuel. Let it burn. Let it drive you forward. Success is not just about money or status. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about proving to yourself that you are unstoppable. It's about standing tall in the face of those who tried to break you and saying, I am still here. Jason still lives under my roof, but we are strangers. He knows it. I know it. Our marriage is a performance for the outside world, a convenience for now. But the power dynamic has shifted. He is no longer the man in control. I am, and he feels it every day. Jessica has tried to reach out. A few months ago, she sent me a text. I miss you. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. But I never replied. She had already become a memory, one I no longer needed to revisit, because my life had outgrown them. My future was too bright to let their shadows linger. Do you think I made the right choice by cutting them out of my life? Comment 111 if you agree. Or would you have forgiven them? Let me know in the comments. I know forgiveness is often seen as the high road, but sometimes the high road is simply moving on without dragging the weight of those who betrayed you. Sometimes success is the purest form of closure. As I left my office that evening, I took one last look at the city below. I thought about that girl standing behind the trellis a year ago. The girl who thought her world was ending. She wouldn't have believed that this is where she would end up. But she had made it. And so will you. If you're going through something right now, if you feel broken, betrayed, or lost, I need you to know this. You will get through it. It will hurt. It will push you to your limits. But on the other side, there is power. There is freedom. There is you. The version of you that was always meant to shine. Have you ever turned heartbreak into power? I would love to hear your story. Share in the comments. Let's build a community of strength, of people who refuse to be defeated. And if you want more stories like mine, subscribe to Revenge Real Tales. It would mean the world to me. Because here, we don't stay down. We rise. We thrive. We win. 1 year after my wedding, the day that broke me, I stood beneath a different kind of spotlight. This time, it wasn't the warm glow of fairy lights over a dance floor where I faked my happiness. It was the bright, almost blinding light of a stage in downtown Los Angeles, reflecting off the glass walls of a ballroom filled with the most powerful names in the event industry. Cameras clicked, voices murmured, and all eyes turned toward me as the announcer's voice echoed through the room. And the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award goes to Emily Parker, CEO of Lux Vision Events. Applause thundered around me as I rose from my seat. I felt every clap, every cheer vibrate through my chest. Each one was a reminder of every tear I had shed, every sleepless night spent rebuilding myself from the ground up. I walked toward that stage with my head high, the same way I had walked down the aisle a year earlier. But this time, there was no veil to hide my pain. This time, I was uncovered, strong, certain, victorious. I spotted them before I reached the microphone. Jason, Jessica, they were sitting in the back corner of the room, half hidden behind a pillar, their presence almost invisible amidst the sea of polished professionals. They hadn't been invited, not officially. I knew Jason had managed to get a ticket through one of his dwindling connections. Jessica tagged along, as she always did. Once, their faces had been the center of my world. Now, they were just part of the crowd. Unremarkable. Overlooked. I met Jason's eyes for a brief moment. He looked older than he had a year ago. Tired. Worn down by a failing business and the slow realization that his best days were likely behind him. Jessica's gaze dropped quickly when she saw me looking. She fidgeted with her bracelet, her nails chipped. A far cry from the perfectly manicured woman who had once stood beside me as my maid of honor. They thought they had stolen everything from me. But now, I was standing on a stage, clutching a crystal award engraved with my name, while they sat in the shadows, watching me succeed. Have you ever had a moment like that? When you realize the people who tried to destroy you were now forced to witness your rise. Comment 111 if you believe they deserved exactly what they got, or maybe even worse. Or let me know in the comments what you would have done in my shoes. I cleared my throat and began my speech. A year ago, I thought my life had fallen apart. I stood on a different stage, wearing a white dress, believing I was stepping into my future with the people I loved most. But that day was not what I thought it would be. That day, I lost my faith in those I trusted. But I gained something far more powerful. I paused, scanning the room. I let my eyes linger on Jason and Jessica, just for a second, before moving past them. I found myself. The room fell silent. I could feel the weight of their attention, the respect in their eyes. I built Lux Vision from pain, from betrayal. But I built it with passion, with vision. And tonight, standing here, holding this award, I know one thing for certain. Success is the best revenge. The crowd erupted into applause again, but I barely heard it. I was too busy feeling the satisfaction that ballooned deep in my chest. This was my closure, not a screaming match, not exposing their affair. This, standing here, with the world recognizing my worth, while they faded into insignificance. After the ceremony, people crowded around me, investors, potential clients, journalists. They wanted interviews, handshakes, photos. Jason and Jessica lingered near the bar, their drinks barely touched. They watched as I moved through the crowd, commanding every conversation, every room. I felt Jason approach before I saw him, that familiar scent of his cologne. the hesitation in his steps. "Emily," he said, his voice low, careful. "Congratulations." I turned to face him, meeting his eyes without flinching. "Thank you." He looked like he wanted to say more, like he was searching for the right words to unravel the distance that had grown between us. But there was nothing left to say. He had made his choices, and I had made mine. Beside him, Jessica avoided my gaze, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I didn't offer her a word. She didn't deserve one. I smiled, not out of malice, but out of freedom. For the first time, I felt it fully. I had won, and they both knew it. Have you ever had someone from your past try to step back into your life after realizing they made a mistake? What did you do? Comment 111 if you shut the door on them like I did. Or share your story below. I want to hear how you reclaimed your power. That night, I returned to my apartment, my space, filled with things I had chosen for myself. The echoes of laughter from the ceremony still rang in my ears. I placed the award on my mantle, right next to a framed quote my father had given me when I was a teenager. It read, "Don't let anyone steal your light." He had given me that quote long before life had tested me. Before Jason. Before Jessica. Before the wedding that wasn't a fairy tale. I traced the words with my fingertips, realizing that I had lived them. I had walked through fire, but I had come out brighter, stronger. I had walked down the aisle with a broken heart, but I walked into my power that day. And that power had led me here, to a life they could no longer touch. So, to anyone listening right now, if you are sitting in the rubble of a relationship that broke you, if you feel like someone has stolen your happiness, your future, your light, I want you to hear me. They can't take what's yours. Not forever. You are stronger than you think. You deserve to shine. Let your pain build you. Let your heartbreak fuel you. Let your success speak louder than your tears ever could. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't tearing them down. It's standing so tall they can't reach you anymore. Have you ever turned pain into power? Have you ever risen from betrayal and built something they never thought you could? Share your story with me in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, subscribe to Revenge Real Tales. I'd be so grateful to have you with me. Because here, we don't stay broken. We rise. We shine. We win. As I close this chapter of my story, I want to leave you with something more than just the satisfaction of seeing those who hurt me get what they deserved. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Jason and Jessica. It's not even just about me. It's about all of us. Every person who's ever been lied to, betrayed, underestimated, or made to feel like they weren't enough. I know that pain. I know what it's like to cry in silence while the world thinks you're fine. I know what it's like to feel like you've lost everything. But I also know what it's like to rebuild, to stand up after being knocked down, to create a life so beautiful, so powerful, that those who tried to break you can only watch from a distance. That's why I'm sharing this story with you, because I want you to know you can do it too. Your pain can be your power. Your heartbreak can be the foundation of something extraordinary. You deserve to stand in your light. You deserve to win. But this space isn't just about me. Revenge Real Tales is a place for all of us, for those who've been hurt but refuse to stay broken. I want to hear your story. Have you ever faced betrayal like mine? Have you ever turned your pain into strength? Or maybe you're still in the middle of it, wondering if you'll ever get through. Whatever your experience, I want you to share it in the comments below. Let's build a community where we lift each other up, where we remind each other that no matter how hard life tries to break us, we can rise, we can succeed, we can win. And if this story spoke to you, if you want to hear more real stories of resilience, betrayal, and triumph, please subscribe to Revenge Real Tales and turn on your notifications. That way, you'll never miss a story. I would be so grateful to have you with me on this journey, because together we are unstoppable. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Now go out there and shine.